everybody. It is Stories Live time, so we're back from the summer break. I'm Amy Armstrong, and tonight we currently have Matt Bille and Travis Heermann, and we're supposed to have Jessica Hopkins. I don't know where she is, so hopefully she'll show up. But either way, we have two good people tonight, and the theme is creature feature. So we're going to have some creatures. And our first creature is brought to us by Matt Bille here. Hello.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Matt, what have you been up to with writing these days?
Well, since Travis is going to read a piece of one of his books, I get to mention mine. Uh,
Absolutely.
the last one I did, this won a Colorado Authors League award. Uh,
Nice.
Books and Beasts. Those of you who know, I'm into zoology and cryptozoology. I wrote 400 book reviews
Wow.
of books in zoology, cryptozoology, and the supporting sciences that you should know, like zoology and uh, paleontology. So that was a lot of fun, uh,
Nice.
and it's the only one of my books ever to sort of make some money, in the out of the gate. Not much money, but a little bit. But that's what I've been up to. That, and I'm uh, still working on my forever project, uh, a novel called Apex Predator, about
Very cool.
essentially what happens if history's greatest, or at least coolest, marine predator, the old armored fishes, Dunkleosteus, was not quite extinct. Uh,
Oh,
I'm aiming for Crichton, but with the sort of Sarah Gruen personal vibe. So if anybody, uh, if there are any desperate agents on this call, let me know.
oh. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Matt. And I don't think that they have to be that desperate, but but I understand the feeling. Um, so yeah, I will go ahead and leave you to it. You said you have a couple of stories that you want to read.
Yeah, let's have a little fun tonight
Sure.
talking about creatures.
Yeah, absolutely.
First one here is called Trouble in Bigfoot City.
Awesome. I will leave you
Now,
to it.
I'm doing the first person voice of a 26-year-old blogger here, female. So if it gets really awful, tough. Doing my best. Okay. My name's Terry. I'm a werewolf blogger. It says so on my U.S. government contract. Okay, so you ready to go back and hear the story? It's been getting scary around here. Small Oregon towns are already kind of scary for a single woman, but I've learned to deal with that. Most creeps have no guts, they're easy to intimidate, and I know how to avoid the scary ones. But it's tiring as hell and unfair as hell, and anyway, things were getting scarier. Everybody was talking about the Dog Man Killer. The killer was a guy who liked to bite open people's throats and drink some blood. Not your average neighbor or even your average murderer. Sounds part vampire, part Hannibal Lecter. So where did the internet get Dogman from? Nobody knew. 3 dead so far, and the task force of cops and FBI was getting nowhere. Part of that was the descriptions by one woman whose murder was interrupted by a camper, and 3 witnesses who'd seen him stalking someone or running away could belong to 3 different men. All this in a magnificent landscape, one that changed from an awesome mosaic of evergreen and granite, blues and greens and grays, now looking like a place of shadow and apprehension that could easily hide a killer or an army of them. For those who hear my dog barking in the background, that was a cue for atmosphere. The internet, by the way, had already moved on from the mythical dogman cryptid to the mythicaler werewolf who had obviously spread his affliction to several other men. So far, he bit only women, but it was said just his touch could spread his evil. Yeah, right. My blog was the closest thing Bigfoot City had, and it is Bigfoot City, renamed in 1968 from Grover's Landing, but we have no landing and no Bigfoot, so whatever. I'm the closest thing there is to a news source. I have one blog for fun, sample post. A logger tried to pick me up by saying he had a really big log, and that makes me a living. But I take my news blog seriously. So, of course, I was in the school gym when the county sheriff and an FBI agent tried to calm 100 people down. I liked Sheriff Bass, although she was pretty new. She looked a little like Agent Scully if Gillian Anderson had blonde hair and lived in the gym her whole life. I missed the slightly chubby FBI guy's name, looking at his striking red hair, which reminded me of the mane on the rare and cherished twist in My Little Pony cabinet at home. Oh, and it made him even look more ridiculous with his newly bought undercover checked shirt and jeans. They laid out the usual serial killer profile and safety rules and all that. You've seen it all on TV. Everyone was salivating for the Q&A portion of the night, and you could see the speakers steeling themselves for it. And so it went. Al from Al's Garage. Is there only one guy? We've heard him tall, short, blonde, brunette, you name it. FBI. Honest witnesses still make big mistakes. I heard all those descriptions once chasing a guy who was Hispanic and bald. Belle, waitress. But we're seeing him more. The last two murders were only 4 days apart. Are you still sure there's just one? FBI. That's still where the evidence points right now. Ken, logger. Is it true this guy's super fast and jumps fences and smashes right through doorways? Sheriff. No. He's an athletic guy. He's fast and good at hiding, and he seems pretty strong, but you could take him one-on-one, Ken. Don't worry. Flower son, whatever she did. I heard he has glowing red eyes. Isn't it really Sasquatch or a manifestation dressed in human clothes? It got worse from there, but I stayed. I had a duty to chronicle this thing, and I heard it all. The Apache demon in Oregon, the demon possession, the accusations against rabid Trump supporters, the accusations against Antifa, which apparently had changed the dress code, the references from Criminal Minds, which I stopped watching when Shamar Moore left, werewolves, and, of course, vampires. At length, the building emptied. The FBI agent talked with me for a few minutes. Then he started to flirt. The sheriff Gibbs slapped him on the back of the head, and I wandered out alone, phone in hand. There's a funny corner of the building where an equipment shed makes it almost into a phone booth closed on three sides. That's what I was walking past when the guy shoved me into it. Was I alert? I was dictating more notes, damn it. The shove wasn't hard enough to knock the wind out of me, but I freaked like anyone else did, thrown against a wooden wall in a urine-soaked alcove. I gathered details fast. White guy, blonde like an ugly meth-wrecked Chris Evans knockoff. No smell of alcohol, just dirty and wet like a mud-spattered animal. Breath ragged, eyes bloodshot, but wrong, more copper than red. The weirdness got worse when he spoke. Your neck's so beautiful, woman. It came out as a snarl. His words weren't slurred together like an alcoholic's. There were simply no beats in between words. He was human, but was he? New drug? Genetic experiment? He kept darting his eyes around. But wait, were they looking jaundiced now? He was holding me by the shoulders, typical guy move. I kicked his crotch, and he was hurt, but he didn't crumple. It did make him loosen my left shoulder, and I threw a palm at the base of his nose. I felt cartilage crunch, and he stepped back, but he still stood there, then gripping me harder. The scariest thing wasn't it that he'd shaken off two hard shots, but that he hadn't tried to move or twist away either time. "You're beautiful, your neck smells so good," he breathed, his snarl slightly impeded by the broken nose and blood. He didn't bother to wipe the blood away. He never looked at my eyes, which seemed weird. He just focused on my neck. "Turn around, you don't need to see your death from my beautiful teeth." His grip had strengthened still further to the really painful level, and the adrenaline bashing around my body wasn't helping me fight at all. If I wasn't going to get out of this, well, I wasn't going to just curl up and die. "If you're going to kill me, look me in the eyes, damn it." I tried to stare into his eyes, but he averted them. Instinctively realizing I was onto something, I tried again and again, bending my knees, straightening up, tilting my head, and again he dodged and he got agitated, and he screamed almost like an amplified whisper. He shook me, but I kept doing it. He let go my right shoulder to throw a fist at my face, but I expected it, and when I dropped halfway to my knees to duck it, I looked up and finally cut his yellowed eyes square. Then, pow, he let go. He turned his head, whimpered again, and ran. Or loped, more like. Who or what moves like that besides, well, you know. And who doesn't like to look you in the eyes? In a confrontation. Shit. What the hell was that? Still just a human, part of my brain insisted to the not listening part. No furry snout, no pointy ears, no fangs, no disguise in grandma's bonnet. Not a wolf, not a, I hated to think the word, werewolf. No one ever saw a werewolf. Although, if nobody ever saw one and lived to report it, how would they know it? We know what they looked like. I screamed myself, a ridiculously delayed response, but don't ask me to figure out what was happening in my head. I screamed louder than he had and sank to my knees against the wall. Then I heard voices. It was hard to make them out, but I realized the sheriff was talking, and someone else, and then I was gently led out of the alcove where I was supposed to die. I hugged the nearest shoulder and cried as I answered the sheriff's questions and managed to give a decent description. Then an ambulance pulled up. "EMT needs to check you over," the sheriff said. "It's all right. You're all right." I got my bearings somewhat. A smile greeted me from under a red Bigfoot City Fire Department cap with a Sasquatch track on the bill. "Ma'am, I just need to check you. Come sit here." He tugged me to the open back of the ambulance so I could sit on the door sill as he took my pulse. The other voices quieted, probably moving off as they tried to track the, quote, dog man or whatever the hell. "Breathe deep," the EM said. "Relax." He put a blanket around my still shaking shoulders and drew it tight. Then he drew it really tight, painfully tight, and I felt panic rise again. "Relax," he said, looking at the site of my attack. "Those new ones, they'll run from anyone." "Huh?" He started breathing harder. "Relax, close your eyes." I started to yell and kick, but he had me almost immobile and a hand on my mouth. He was forcing my head back, exposing my neck. "Freeze!" A woman's shout, a loud one. The guy tore away from me and started to run. A gun barked twice, and he jerked like his puppet strings were yanked, and then cut, and then he was on the ground in a heap. Sheriff Bass checked him closely, then came over. "Are you okay?" "What the hell is okay? I get assaulted and nearly killed in 20 minutes by a goddamn werewolf." I stood up, a little unsteady. Nothing hurt, nothing new at least. My emotions oscillated between the echoes of terror and just being mad as hell. Also, I'd seen dead men, but I'd never seen one killed, and that didn't help. I looked at Bass. "You knew what he was, didn't you?" "I suspected it. Let's talk in my car." When we were seated in the official SUV, She turned on a ceiling light and offered a thermos of coffee, lukewarm at best. I gulped it. Perfect interruption. I hunt them, she said. We hunt them. We? She shook her head and chuckled. This is really embarrassing, but we're the wizards. Wait, like you can do magic? No, but when the Marshal Service set us up, someone who thought she was funny named us the Werewolf Investigations and Research Department. Wizards. We all hate it, but it's on the paperwork. This was a lot to take in, like someone was squeezing information into my brain so hard it was swelling up. Why were you here? We've heard reports out here for years, she said. Finally, somebody pulled a string and had the governor appoint me when the last sheriff retired. Well, maybe he retired. Maybe. Well, no one knows where he is, do they? They didn't. Word was he'd quit suddenly and driven out of town in the middle of the night, spewing dirt and gravel down our little main road. Sheriff Bass rolled down the window and held up a finger to quiet me. Tossing aside her hat, she stuck her head out the window and looked at the nearest stand of trees for a very long minute. And she shook her head. Thought I heard something, but no. Are you sure? Pretty sure. She turned on the headlights, then hit a switch. The blue and red lights started up, sweeping the area with disco, yes, I know what disco is, blasts of photons. I looked and could see nothing. That should keep anyone clear, she said. I should get you out of here, though. I'm not sure which one's been doing the killing or how many are around here. Another wizard from Portland will be here in the morning. I looked across the lot. Just walk me to my car, okay? Sure. We opened our doors and stepped out. We started toward my car, and then she tapped my shoulder and raised a finger again. She looked at the woods and drew her sidearm. She looked toward a noise we heard on our right. And then she did the weirdest thing. She coughed and shuddered and made a little whimper of pain, and I wondered why the shoulders of her shirt were strained like it was suddenly too small, and then she looked back at me. Yellow eyes, long snout, fangs, big ears. Drive, she gasped. She was fighting herself as saliva dripped from her snout. Get in my car and drive, damn it. Somehow I did. I got the hell out of Bigfoot City, apparently the most werewolf-infested place on Earth. The cops in the next town didn't believe anything I was saying, of course. They put me in a cell awaiting a psych hold. But I kept hearing helicopters, also sirens, lots of them, and more helicopters. At dawn, with no explanation, they let me go. Well, no explanation until a wiry black man in a marshal's uniform introduced himself as a wizard named Greg and told me what happened to Bigfoot City. Some idiot started a fire at the store, burned down the whole town. We got everyone out. You mean you started a fire? You got everyone out and screened them. You took the werewolves away. I pointed up where I could still hear the sound of a helicopter. Some you're still looking for, right? His eyes widened. Shit, where'd you get all that? It's the only thing that makes sense, isn't it? Was Sheriff Bass one of the SKPs? Or do you know you didn't even know she was a werewolf? That walking carrot from the FBI winged her, and we got her in a special hospital. She really liked you, asked me to take care of you. How do I take care of myself? My house is burned. My stuff is burned. The best My Little Pony collection in Oregon is burned. He pulled out a piece of paper. I stared. A contract? You're the survivor who's seen the most. You don't miss anything. Your blog is great. The news stuff. Although I admit the post about dating Bigfoot cracked me up. He laid the contract on the hood of his car and gave me a pen. You are now under contract to the Marshal Service. You interview everyone and write up the full report. Then you write some bullshit about how werewolves weren't real and anything strange has logical explanations. You can even start a blog. What if I don't want to cover it up? You're too smart not to know the panic and the shootings that'll take over the whole state if everyone knows. I hesitated. Your consulting fee is $1,000 a week. I signed. And that, friends, is how I became the only official werewolf blogger for any government in the world. They even replaced my car and my computer, and God knows how, my little pony collection, right down to Twist. Believe it or not.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So let's see. I know you guys talked about sandwiching. Like, are you still interested in like letting Travis
Yeah,
like read?
Travis.
Okay. So let's see. So Travis, are you good with going with one of okay. All
Yeah.
right. Let's see. Okay, so I'll give Matt a break here. And so, yeah, we've got the famous Travis Heermann, who has been on the conference circuit for a little bit here. Yeah, where have you been lately? I know you're going to be at Mile High Con.
Most recently, I was at Dragon Con
Nice.
and also the Colorado Festival of Horror,
Wow, awesome. So,
which is an awesome local event if you're into the dark stuff. So
yeah, nice. I was just like, over here hiding out, forgetting how to human. So I definitely should get out more. Um, but anyway, so what are you reading for us tonight?
I'm going to read a story called Heart Magic and Cardboard People.
Okay.
And it appears in this anthology called Street Magic. It's an urban fantasy anthology edited by Lynn Worthen. And the story I'm going to read ties into my Shinjuku Shadows universe. So here's book 2 in that series. Tokyo Monster Mash is the most recent one.
Right.
But this short story ties in with some of the characters. So,
All right. Awesome. Well, look forward.
and just as kind of an introduction, this story kind of grew out of my experiences when I was living in Japan. Because I had to fight off ravening monsters all the time, and well, not exactly. But I love writing stories with martial arts, magic, and monsters, and I wanted to tell the story of because some of my students were immigrant kids, and immigration is kind of a hot button issue, especially here now. And uh, but it doesn't matter what country you're in, immigrants are either ignored or they're used as political punching bags, whichever is most expedient. So I wanted to tell one of those stories and make the heroine kick ass. So here we go.
Nice.
Here we go. Heart Magic and Cardboard People. The two thugs lounged near the entrance of Ikebukuro Station as if waiting for something, their hair fluffed and spiked like anime characters, wearing sunglasses at 11:20 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Sleeves of their stylish leather jackets rolled up to the elbows. Their arrogance and disdain clung to them like a stench, and it turned Anna's stomach. In her navy blue high school uniform, Anna blended in with the crowds, rushing to or from the final trains. She would have to pass the thugs on her way out of the station. If there was anything growing up in an invisible community among immigrants in Tokyo's Chinatown, it was wariness of a certain kind of men. The shops and kiosks were shutting down for the night, and the cardboard people were already colonizing the corners and closed storefronts. Anna thought of them as the cardboard people because they were thin and brown, practically of no substance at all. They carried their cardboard futons and newspaper pillows with them and barricaded themselves behind walls of empty food boxes 20 to 30 centimeters high. A cardboard man erupted from his refuge and reviled an ancient cardboard woman in a country dialect so thick Anna could barely make out the words. "Get out of here, you old hag." The old woman turned aside from the vitriol without flinching. like a fish, unquestioningly changing course toward anonymous depths where its invisible life might disappear with no one to notice. Just one hapless sardine sent off to be eaten by the world. Anna clenched her fists and teeth. "Don't let me see you in here again, idiot," he roared at the old woman. The ancient woman shuffled toward the station exit, where the thugs loitered. Her spine bent so far that she could not raise her head to look more than 2 meters ahead, face collapsing inward, an absence of teeth, pushing a pram filled with cardboard and a few meager possessions. Did she have at least a blanket in there? Inside the station, the December air was chilly. Her hot pink Tokyo Disneyland Zodi made her distinctive shuffle flap sound across the cold tiles. The thug's sunglasses swiveled to follow the old woman. Anna hefted her backpack and its weight of study guides from cram school, but something in her heart twanged. Her mother's voice in sharp Tagalog jumped into her mind. Don't go looking for trouble. She was exhausted from a full day at high school and a full evening at cram school, famished from having eaten nothing but a couple of boiled eggs from Lawson since lunch. Still, sometimes all it took was a witness to give thugs like this a moment's pause. The old woman shuffled outside. The thugs followed her, picking up speed. Anna could see it developing. The thugs would accost the old woman deep enough in the shadows, far enough from traffic and passers-by, that whatever they intended would be over before anyone noticed, much less intervened. But what could they possibly want from a woman with nothing? Homeless people survived by being invisible. Anna hurried to catch up. The thugs caught the old woman by the arms. One of them spoke to her, and the old woman stiffened in an instant panic. Anna shouted, "Oi, baboy! Hey, pig!" They probably didn't understand Tagalog, but a little confusion would work in her favor. They turned on her, empty sunglasses boring into her. Anna stopped 10 paces away. "What are you doing with my grandmother?" she said in Japanese. The one with the blood-red jacket snarled, "What are you talking about, gaijin slut? Get out of here." He used such a chopped, guttural tone, his words sounded like a caricature of every Yakuza movie she had ever seen. Her heart flew into her throat. She had given due comeuppance to a few grabby boys at school, but this was new territory. She glanced around. There were people about at this late hour, but everyone was face down in their own business. No police in sight. Should she just let this go? Walk away? Maybe it was the gaijin, foreigner, that stoked her to anger, even more than being called a slut. She was half Japanese, half Filipina, but she had been born here. Maybe it was something else. Her mixed heritage put her beneath notice most of the time, like the cardboard woman. "What do you want with an Oba-chan? Leave her alone, or I'm going to start yelling." The thugs released the old woman and squared on Anna. The old woman fell into a trembling, whimpering pile. Anna dropped her backpack, her heart hammering. She took a deep breath and imagined Uncle Phil's quiet voice in her head. "It's just like training, nothing more." "Then come and get her," Red Jacket said, grinning. His smile was missing 2 front teeth, and he chewed on a toothpick. A dragon tattoo writhed beneath his jacket zipper. Oh, great. He really was a Yakuza, a year or 2 older than her. Anna's heart roared like a passing bullet train, and her mouth went as dry as beach sand. She held out her hand. "Come on, grandmother, let's go home." The old woman tried to get up, and Red Jacket kicked her back to the ground. Perhaps 50 meters behind Anna, more people were coming out from the station. Would anyone else see this confrontation, yell for the police? She clenched her fists, released them, clenched them, relaxed them, took a deep breath, and started forward. It's just practice. The other thug, wearing a black Dolce & Gabbana bomber jacket, stepped forward. "You want to play, baby? Maybe we'll take you home with us and have a little party." "Grandmother," Anna said, "Mother is expecting us at home." Black Jacket reached for Anna. She let him take her wrist, then let muscle memory and instinct take over. She used his hand and forearm as a lever of control, struck him 3 times in the space of a single breath, solar plexus, throat, uppercut to the chin. Then a painful wrist-snapping joint lock that put him face down on the pavement a heartbeat later. She twisted until something popped, and he cried out. The distinctive clicketing of a butterfly knife, the glint of steel and mercury vapor lamplight and red jacket came at her. She caught his incoming knife wrist on her forearm, a deft twist and a slap to the side of the blade, sending the knife to the pavement. Another joint lock, a hard kick to the back of the knee, scooping up the knife as he went down, twisting his arm up behind his back, grinding his face into the stained concrete with her shin across the back of his neck, and his knife in her hand against his throat. Black Jacket scrambled to his feet and pelted away, holding his arm, whimpering. Seems your buddy ran off. Anna pressed the knife's edge into the flesh of Red Jacket's throat. If he so much as twitched, he would slice his own artery wide open. How's it feel to get your ass kicked by a girl, you slime? She rose up off him and assumed a defensive stance, still holding the switchblade in an expert grip. For a moment, he lay there gasping. It was then she noticed the black sedan on the street nearby, about 20 paces away, engine running. In the dark interior, a short, squat man watched her from the driver's seat, just able to see over the steering wheel. In the glow of a stubby cigar, his eyes looked orange-yellow, reptilian. They fixed upon her, and her muscles froze. She tried to move and couldn't. Something about his skin was wrong, too coarse, too textured. Red Jacket scrambled to his feet and flung himself toward the waiting car. Before he reached the door, however, thick hands grasped the steering wheel, and the car squealed away. Suddenly, Anna was free. The astonished betrayal on Black Jacket's face was almost comical. He fled up on Red Jacket's face was almost comical. He fled up the street after Black Jacket. Butangina mo, your mother's a whore, she called after them in Tagalog. And pardon me if my pronunciation is terrible, because I don't speak Tagalog. Then she helped the old woman to her feet. Are you hurt? Tears streamed down the old woman's face. I'm all right. Running footsteps approached, a police officer. What's going on here? About damn time. Some punks, Anna said, keeping her face downcast, slipping the butterfly knife into her jacket. A chill of fear washed through her, colder than the moments before the fight. She saved me, officer, the old woman said. She's an angel. The policeman, Officer Ogawa by his name tag, asked them a few questions, descriptions of the perpetrators. When Anna described them, his face became a no mask. She gave him a false name and a false address, trying to suppress more waves of even greater fear. If the police asked too many questions, they might discover her mother was an undocumented Filipina who had overstayed her visa by almost 20 years. When he asked her to see her student ID, she apologized for having forgotten it at school. In the end, he was more intent upon radioing back to the Koban than pressing her for information. Anna said to the old woman, Do you have somewhere to sleep tonight? The old woman glanced at her pram. Before she could answer, Anna said, It's a bit of a walk, but we have a kotatsu. She had spent her last 300 yen on boiled eggs for lunch, leaving no money for taxi or bus fare. At the mention of the kotatsu, a heated table under which Japanese people spent their winter nights, the old woman's eyes glittered. Oh, Jizo preserve you, child. That's very kind, but you can't say no, please. Anna put her backpack in the pram, pushed it with one hand, and carried the old woman piggyback like a child. The cardboard woman smelled of trash and sweat and old urine, not unlike summers in the immigrant back alleys of Chinatown where Anna had grown up, where Filipino laborers, hostesses, and sex workers kept to themselves, where Uncle Phil, as everyone called him, still taught eskrima from his garage. As she walked, the fight replayed in her mind over and over. Her skin still tingled, and her legs felt spongy from the adrenaline rush. But taking down those two idiots had been surprisingly easy. She had often wondered how good Uncle Philip really was as a teacher. Now she knew. The weight of the butterfly knife bobbed in her pocket. Home was a kitchen, toilet, ofuro, and one tatami room apartment, empty and dark when Anna opened the door. The apartment was not bad for a couple of Filipinas with no legal status. Her mother made enough money entertaining Japanese salarymen in a kabukicho hostess bar to make rent more often than not, but she worked every night until about 4 a.m. They couldn't afford a phone for Anna, and she worried that her mom might freak out when she came home. But she had gotten her penchant for bringing home strays from her mom. Strays like the huge snow-white tomcat who emerged from the shadows and gave her a piercing look. She knelt to pet him, and he sidled up to rub her leg, almost pushing her off balance with his strength. Stroking his head sent a burst of static electricity through her fingers, a powerful snap that somehow went all the way to her chest. In the dimness, the spark had looked green. That was weird, she muttered, flexing her fingers. The cat eyed the old woman, who bowed to him and said, "Good evening, Bake Neko-san." The name translated to ghost cat or monster cat, a kind of yokai or supernatural creature. Strangely, it sounded as if she knew him. He blinked once, then darted past them out into the night as he usually did, coming and going like a ghost. Sometimes Anna felt he was simply checking in on her, happy to mooch a tuna sandwich along the way. Anna arranged the kotatsu, quilt, and futons, setting her alarm to rise early for school and send the old woman on her way before her mother returned. As Anna snuggled into the kotatsu's quilt, the breathing of the old woman descended into oblivion. Anna's brain was still chewing on the fight, however. Her gaze turned toward the grainy photograph of her mother, young and smiling and beautiful, taken in a lovely park in Manila, and wondered what had been so terrible that she had abandoned all family and friends for the life of an undocumented foreigner in Japan. Her mother steadfastly refused to discuss it. And what about Anna's father? "A slimy deadbeat. You're better off without him," was all her mother would say. When the alarm clock woke her at 6:30 a.m. to get ready for school, Mom was snuggled against Anna on her futon, snoring softly. Her hair still smelled of cigarette smoke and sake. The old woman was already gone, but atop the kotatsu lay something wrapped in worn newspaper. Anna unwrapped it and found a comb. But not just any comb, an antique Japanese lady's comb, about the size of her hand, with fine black lacquered teeth, one of which was missing. An arching spine engraved with a gilded crane in flight, encrusted with mother of pearl and minute squares of colored glass. It wore its age with grace and beauty. On the scrap of newspaper was a note. "For you, my angel. My grandmother was a geisha. This comb belonged to her. If not for you, I would be dead today. I know who those men work for." Anna caressed the comb's smooth lines, then got herself ready for school. English test today, which she was going to ace, growing up with a multilingual mother. The old woman's note burrowed under Anna's skin. "I would be dead. I know who those men work for." What was she talking about? A particular Yakuza gang? The Yamaguchi Gumi, Sumiyoshi Kai, or worst of all, the Black Lotus clan? She shuddered at the thought of having pissed off the Black Lotus clan. Some of the gangs had gone half legitimate, but the Black Lotus clan was infamous for being into some supremely shady stuff. If those two thugs were Black Lotus and ever found out who she was, she might disappear forever. The next night, on her way home from Ikebukuro Station, she looked in vain for the old woman. That she didn't even know the old woman's name felt like a discourtesy. The old woman had had a life once. Anna wore her comb in her hair that day, and for the first time, people noticed her. Even the haughty girls spoke to her, and the coolest boys' notice fell upon her. Was this what it felt like to be a person, not just a gaijin girl? All day long, she was aware of a powerful fluttering sensation around her heart or breastbone. It wasn't altogether unpleasant, but she'd never felt it before, and she hoped she wasn't coming down with something by walking around in the winter cold wearing a skirt every night. When she got home, she sewed a sheath for her forearm to conceal the butterfly knife. "I know who those men work for." The next night, walking home after cram school, her brain buzzing with math and history, she didn't see them step around a corner in time. There they were at the station exit, sunglasses turning toward her, failing to hide their dark malice. They started toward her. She wouldn't surprise them with Eskrima again. Anna cast about for somewhere to run, a crowd to fade into, but there was no one at this hour. Then she heard yelling. "You're not listening to me," the voice said. She ducked around a corner and nearly crashed into a cardboard man, the same one who had chased the old woman from the station. He was entreating Officer Ogawa, who stood with arms crossed, face pinched. Where are my friends? The cardboard man shrilled. 5 of my friends are gone, all in the last month. I already gave you their names. Anna apologized and peeked back behind her. The thugs were coming. She lingered near the officer. Officer Ogawa loomed over the man, his brow darkening, and said something she could not hear. The man shrank like a deflated balloon, turned and shuffled away. Just then, the thugs burst around the corner, drawing up sharply at the sight of the policeman. He glared at them. What are you 2 idiots doing in here? You're supposed to stay outside. The thugs humphed, turned shoulders, and walked away, flashing Anna expressions of dire intent. Ogawa's eyes flickered over the crowd to see how many people were watching, then moved away as if on patrol, ignoring her. While their backs were turned, she darted out of one of the other exits. The next day, Anna passed by the neighborhood Koban, a diminutive police station about the size of her apartment, and happened to glance at the series of wanted posters on the bulletin. A face jumped out at her, gaping, gap-toothed mouth, anime hair. Wanted on suspicion of grand larceny, petty theft, assault and battery, extortion. His name was Abe Keisuke, with 5 known aliases. Anna recognized him as Red Jacket. She paused. The officer behind the window was hunched over his work, oblivious to her presence. The very thought of entangling herself with the authorities sent a hot, dry lump into her throat. Excuse me, officer. The words stumbled over her teeth. He did not look up. Yes. I've seen one of these guys. Who? Where? Abe Keisuke. Last night at Ikebukuro Station, and 2 nights ago. He and another guy tried to kidnap an old homeless lady. Why didn't you tell the police? I did. His name was Ogawa. He got there just after they ran off. The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. And just yesterday, I heard this homeless guy telling Officer Ogawa 5 of his friends had disappeared. It's winter. They stay out of sight more, keeping themselves warm. Do you know her name, the old lady's? No. The homeless man? No. Do you have any concrete information at all? Her ears buzzed with anger. I guess not. He sighed. All right. Thank you for the information. Name and address. She gave him a fake one. Which high school do you go to? He said. Showa Tetsudo. His gaze locked on her. Really? My daughter goes there. Strange that you're not wearing a Showa Tetsudo uniform. She ran. The next day was Saturday, one of Anna's training days at Uncle Phil's dojo, the back alley behind an apartment building. In spite of the makeshift surroundings, he took his role seriously as a sensei of a martial arts school, even though he rarely took money from his students. Whenever he held classes, he unfolded a few moldy rubber mats on the ground, erected a couple of striking dummies, and lit some incense below the Philippine flag with the black and white portrait of his teacher. As always, after practice, sweat soaked Anna's clothes and her torso, even in the winter chill. Her arms and hands felt like masked bruises. Uncle Phil was a short man, even for a Filipino, squat, but there was an astonishing quickness in him that humbled even the cockiest students. He rubbed his shaved pate and eased back onto a plastic crate. The garage doors hung open to the narrow street. The other students of the afternoon had already departed. You practiced hard today, he said in English. Training for something? Another fight with gangsters, maybe? You heard about that? I hear about everything. Something bad is happening. You looking for trouble? I'm looking for answers. If they did something to that old woman, you feel responsible for her now, yeah? Yeah. He leaned forward to put his hands on his knees. Look, Anna, you're a good girl, a smart girl. This is a big city. People can live in the cracks of big cities. Sometimes the cracks swallow people, disappear, poof. It's not right. If it was right, everyone's life would count. Everyone would be missed. Everyone would have somebody to cry at their funeral. But the world, it don't work that way. Something in his voice caught her ear. You've heard something? He waved dismissively. Just crazy stuff. What kind of crazy stuff? Old Georgina Matapang said she saw an Oswong in the alley down by the docks. But she's poof crazy. An Oswong? Anna said. Her mother had told her stories of Ozwang since she was old enough to listen. Tales of foul, human-like night creatures feeding upon human victims, drinking blood or viscera or the fluids of pregnant women through their hollow, prehensile tongues. A chill trickled up her spine. She said it was feeding on some homeless man. Bah, he scoffed. Ozwang can stay in the Philippines. And I think I'm at the end of my time, but I've got a lot of story left.
Oh my. It's just like, it's so much. Well, thank you for reading, and I guess Matt wants to.
Well, before I go, once again,
Yeah.
this story is in Street Magic. So if you want to hear how it, if you want to read how it ends, get this one.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of good details in there and everything. So really liked it. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. All right. So got Matt here. Okay. And Matt, you're muted for the moment, so you might want to unmute.
I'm
Okay.
very rarely asked to unmute, but go ahead.
Yes. Well, we can hear you better when you're not muted. All right. So, what's your second piece here?
Well, this is a short story, and I am not good at this, and I'm not dead certain that I haven't used it here before. But if I have, please forget it,
Okay.
and we'll have some fun with it.
Okay. Sounds good.
And if you thought my 26-year-old blogger was bad, uh, wait for my Polish accent.
Oh. Okay. I'm ready.
Rodzina. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Mothman. Nova rolled her eyes at her brother. That's you, 10% historian and 90% nerd. He looked around the office, converted from the garage in the small house their parents had bought in '65. And neither one pays poop. What do you make of it? November Rains, founder and sole actual scientist of the Scientific Illinois Cryptozoology Club, with a K, shook her head at John Joseph, her brother and fellow victim of parents who'd named all their kids after Harry Chapin songs. Again, they watched the phone video on his laptop screen. I've always thought there's got to be something behind all the flying cryptid stories, she said. But that's distant enough that it might be a tricked-out drone or a big bird from a funny angle. Wish you'd gotten more than 5 seconds of it. Agreed. Only time you see the wings flap is once, and nothing to judge size by. Add it to the Chicago Reported Aerial Phenomena file. You have got to stop with the acronymic names. I was an idiot to let you name the club. John shrugged. You have to get older, but you don't have to grow up. Stop quoting Mulder. The show was okay, but the revival was crap. I was quoting Doctor Who. What's that, a cartoon owl? Look, we need to sell this. Chicago needs a cryptid for its advertising, and Mothman is the best we've got. Our best chance to get some cash and do serious Bigfoot research. They paused to exchange smiles. A possible $50,000 grant from the Choose Chicago campaign to hunt down and publicize Illinois cryptids, real or not, was more than their books would earn in 10 years. The dues from their 57 members didn't amount to much more than what the books brought in. I've been afraid to ask this, but I better, John said. If we don't get the grant, are you sure you want to keep going? You worked your butt off to get your master's, but you still teach biology to brats because that dean in Loyola put your thesis on the internet just to laugh at it. Listen to me, she said, the forest green eyes they had inherited from their mother taking on a frosty look. John, no hoaxer made those footprints we saw. I am going to find that damn ape if I have to napalm the Sandridge State Forest to do it. Okay, back to work. Okay, she said. So 15 sightings total, August through October. If you throw out the obvious lies, the two from drunk guys and the kid with the bat kite. John grinned. That kite was really cool. I still want one. But what's the pattern? For the best three sightings of winged cryptids, we've got one on Fulton Market Street, one in West Town somewhere, and one over Burnham Harbor. The West Town one intrigues me. She pushed a red pin into a science fair poster board. That makes the third in the same block area by one cop, one self-appointed journalist who took the video, and one businessman, all in daylight. I think that's where I'd like to talk to people. Video or no, something's going on. Hopefully we can use it. They left their Uber at the complex and crowded. It was a nice sunny day for mid-October. Intersection of Division Street and Ashland and Milwaukee Avenues. They pulled up beside the witness they just contacted, a local blogger, YouTube journalist, and social media something or other. Ken K was his nickname for his habit of rescuing kittens and posting adorable videos between his podcasts, honest interviews, and occasionally more gritty subjects. Ken was a black kid of maybe 20 with a technicolored hoodie and the liveliest eyes Nova had ever seen. He took them half a block down Division and pointed up. Right there, right there. It came over the roof, then, well, you saw the clip. It only hovered once, for a second, or I have a lot better close-up. Still the most interesting video we've seen, Nova said. John nodded agreement. Other two sightings were almost at the same time, between 7 and 8 in the morning. One just over there, one at the end of the block. You ask me, something moved to Chicago for some crazy reason a while back, and no one even noticed. He looked at the time on his phone. Got a Uber. WBBM wants me in the studio, in live, and in person. Old-fashioned much? Thanks. We're right by the dry cleaner, so let's check in on the other guy, Nova said. The dry cleaning business was in an old, narrow building with a second-floor living space. The inside suited it, an old-fashioned place crowded with simple clothes racks and perfumed by the sharp, sweet odor of tetrachloroethylene solvent. Bert Spilsman matched him well. He was a little man of about 80 who talked in a weak but lively voice, with constant gestures of his work-warped hands. Yay, somebody got to talk to the crazy old Pollock. Look, I'm happy to tell you what you saw, but the thing kind of gives me the creeps. They went over his sighting. Nothing remarkable in itself, but it was the longest look anyone had had. And Spilsman was sure he'd seen legs under an upper body mostly obscured by flapping wings. Made me think of a Lachwick story my grandmother told. He said. The cryptozoologists went through their mental card of history and legends. Don't know that one, John said. The old story was I had a great-great-great-uncle who got hanged for something. Nobody agrees what. Anyway, supposedly the souls of people like that get turned into giant black birds that haunt the places they lived. Old people still said they'd seen them. Nova thought of Ken K's comments. What do you think it is? I don't know. The wings weren't pointed like on the falcons you see in the city. Way broader, and they looked like they made of something similar, like a bird's wing, like that. He pointed to a gray windbreaker on one of the cleaning racks. About that color, too. Little bent back on the lead edge, the way Woodstock looks. You're a bird watcher? John asked. I'm a big reader, Bert said in. I've loved animals and science since I was a kid. Want to see my book nook? It wasn't a nook. It was 3 extra-wide, 4-shelved units stuffed with books, making a little room that also had its comfy reading chair, a cot, and even a mini fridge. On the shelves rested, among others, one book on evolution by Ernst Mayr, two editions of Darwin's The Origin of Species, a sand country almanac, what looked like full sets of nature books of Carl Safina and David Quammen's, a textbook on crocodilians, Francois Berlet's The Natural History of Mammals, and Clinical Medicine of Small Mammals and Primates, which struck Nova as especially odd. She looked to the next shelf. Books on the Earth and the Cosmos, Sagan, Hawking, Richard Ellis's Imagining Atlantis, a book on imaging Earth from space, Richard Feynman's autobiography. They looked like secondhand copies or finds from library bookshelves. Science and history magazines, from new back to the 60s, were piled up. They're my Rodzina, my family, Bert said. Never had much of a people family. It's me and them. Wow, Nova said, still looking at the books. Gerald Durrell, Sylvia Earle, Jane Goodall, Louis Leakey. She ran her finger down the spine of Bernard Hooverman's On the Track of Unknown Animals. Even some cryptozoology. Always interesting. It's a big planet, you know. He pointed to a complete set of the journal Cryptozoology from the 1990s. You're a scientist. You know the discovery curve for mammals is going up. Same with birds. Meyer said clear back in 43 we'd found all the birds. George Gaylord Simpson in 84 wrote there were only a few scrawny little mammals left. Pokauli maj tainek dupe, George. John grinned. He knew Tylek meant ass because a Polish-speaking girl once called him that. The rest he could figure out. Nova didn't try to hide her amazement. Bert was an expert without a degree or a classroom. Not an internet expert either, although he had a laptop and printer with an article about proto-mammals lying on it. He was an expert from books and journals and every other source because it interested him. There couldn't be many people like him around. Have you looked for it since? She asked. A couple of times. Got a 1-second glimpse from the roof once. That's it. Do you mind if we try? Beautiful woman and her sidekick can do anything she wants. John's phone gave 3 beeps. He looked it up, pulled it out, and stared at the text. Linda, he said, naming their cousin who was a cop in the 12th precinct. She just took a statement from the ER at St. Elizabeth's. Said this flying thing attacked her. Linda couldn't share the name of the girl, and they couldn't see her, but the stout red-headed cop waved them into her SUV to talk in private. Girl says your Mothman swooped down her an alley off Ashland and grabbed her with some kind of skinny fingers or claws or knocked her down. Said it was smaller than she was, gray and black. Made a little high-pitched ding like a chihuahua. Hit her and kept flying. She's hysterical, but her screen came back clear. No record of mental health treatment. Mom says she tells the truth. Have you been getting calls on the recent sightings? Nova asked. Only a couple. Not a crime to see Mothman. Not a crime to be Mothman. Until now. What happens now? If it's in the papers, animal control is going to have to look at it. Chicagoans are used from everything to crooked papers to abandoned kangaroos, but this is going to freak them out. Discovery curve, Nova said back in the sick office. Something Bert said. We're finding more new mammals. Here there's just one species, but we're seeing more of them. We've been thinking about geography. We didn't think about the time. 2 a week in August, 1 every 10 days or so in September, 5 in the last few days. If this is a real animal, it's showing itself more. It's getting careless? Or it really is hunting for something. I think we've got an early morning date on that roof. I hope your real dates aren't like this, John complained, snuggling his gloved hands into the pocket of his jacket. No wonder Mom despaired about you having a husband and kids. Dad would have gotten a kick seeing us in a stakeout on a roof, though. He checked his watch. 6:57. Tell God the sunrise is late. It's 50 degrees, wimp, she said. You tell him. John's face froze. His voice was a shocked whisper as he pointed into the air. Tell them. Two objects had risen over the adjacent rooftop. John raised his phone and started filming as Nova aimed her binoculars. Holy hell, they are animals, she said. Not monkeys and not man and not Mothman, or I don't want to say flying monkeys. They're circling, John said, trying to keep the things in his viewfinder and wishing he'd brought a good camera. Smaller than people have guessed, like, my turn, monkeys. Nova kept watching. Furry, wing broad, but kind of bird-shaped like you said. Skin like a bat? What the hell? The larger animal raised a wing and tilted past a hotel-turned loft space, and the other followed. In moments, they were lost from sight. Nova was vaguely aware words were dripping out of her mouth. Close-set eyes, long flat nose, sharp ears, kind of like a macaque. I'll bet Bert downstairs has a monkey book. Like a macaque, Bert said. They don't live any closer than Japan, is what I thought. They don't fly either, but here they are, John said. Nova turned a page in Bert's copy of Walker's Primates of the World. I thought I had this right. Primates arose in the New World, but there hasn't been one here since the Eocene. Tell them that, John said. Why two? No one's got no good look except... He stared at Bert. Why didn't you tell us? Nova demanded. What, you think they live in my basement? Bert said. When did those first little primates show up? Nova thought the old man was getting excited, but in a weird way, as if he was testing them. First primates, 55 million years, give or take a few. Let me ask you this. When did bats start flying around? Early Eocene too, about the same time, grouped in the suborder Arconta with primates. So monkey and a bat, Bert said. Common ancestor somewhere? Why couldn't there be something out of the same root? I read that flying's been invented by animals half dozen times. What's one more? Come on, John said. Where's it been? Why wouldn't we know it till now? Nova felt the tumbler click in her head. It didn't arise in North America. It arose in Eastern Europe, didn't it? The old stories, bats, giant birds, vampires, Dracula, Latwek, all from this. That's what you're not telling us. Hell, they are in your basement. Basement and second floor, John said. This isn't a reading nook, it's where you live. Bert seemed to weigh things for a moment in his mind. Come here. He led them to a door and knocked 3 times. He went through and emerged with an animal perched on his arm. That's our Niamwali, he said proudly, the baby. Mothers let babies like the basement. Others like the room upstairs where I knocked off the wall to give him space. Nova and John just stared. The face was like a macaque, but had wider, larger set eyes and an adorable face. The body was deeper than a regular monkey's. It started to scramble back. Bert said in a quiet, soothing tone, of Job C. And the animal reset his feet. How many? 11, Bert said. Don't know if you saw the office, but it's cut across by a little building, so it's like a little slot or a big chimney. Lets them get in and out. And no animal smells because of the solvent, Nova said. You really thought this through. You're their guardian. Last ones in the world, Bert said. Smuggled them with me when I came here in 75. My mother told me the last were hunted down. The family decided 1,000 years ago we were the guardians. Only occasional sightings before the last couple of years. Yeah, they used to be more careful, like me. Now everybody's looking up. What about the girl who was hurt, Nova said. Never happened before. Accident, fluke, whatever. I'm sorry for the girl, but now everybody's going to be looking for the Mothman. People forget how hard it is to size something in the air, John said. They look a little human like, so the brain says man. Bert called, "Hey," to the front of his shop. Ken K appeared, his eyes even brighter than normal. "Hi," he said. "I'm the new Guardian." "Guardian? But you report sightings," John said. "I found this little place by accident. I was going to post it, but if you looked at those little faces, Bert told me the story, and here I am. We got careless. Now I'm getting people for every I let people get a little more interested, enough to be everybody buzzing about, and then pow, I reveal a drone the kid made. That was the kid's idea. Then everybody will call it a hoax and forget. Not totally crazy. Let's hope it works. That's why I told you about the sighting. I wanted to see if you get sucked in. Yank your chain a little. Cryptozoologist, I know all about you guys. I think I can trust you." Nova slowly reached arm toward Bert's. The animal half flapped its wings once and landed on Nova's arm. It was lighter than she thought, but there had to be a lot of evolutionary adaptations. It was still a tetrapod, arms coming out to support the wings like a bat, but cartilage rods or bony spikes grew from the upper arms and elbow to stretch the wings. The last few inches was still extended and usable. The animal brought its curious face close to hers and wrapped her hand around her index finger. "Cryptozoological find of a lifetime," John said. "Nova, this is what you wanted. Getting vindicated, rubbing everybody's face in it. But you've decided, haven't you?" Nova rubbed the creature's head. "They'll put this group in a lab and experiment till they die. I'm not going to live longer," Bert said. "Lung cancer. You're all guardians now." Ken K said, "Welcome to the family. Hopefully someday we can tell the story." Nova clucked at the little animal. "Rodzina," she said, "we're in." Okay, that ran a little long. I frankly forgot how long that story was. And of course, it was more vocal than action, so maybe it put you all in the mood to sleep tonight.
I doubt that anybody's going to be, falling asleep, worrying about, I mean, especially since, like, bat monkeys. It's like, that's pretty creepy. Um, let's see. So, yeah, so that is a wrap on our stories tonight. So, yeah, Travis, thank you so much for sharing from that collection.
Anthology.
Yeah, that
Street,
anthology by Lynn Wortham. Yes, Street Magic.
street magic, street magic.
Yes.
And
So
thank you, Amy, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
absolutely.
great.
Yeah, always good to see you guys. And, I'm sorry we were a reader short tonight. Jessica is alive. She just was not feeling well. So I'm relieved that, at least she's still with us. But yeah, does either of you have anything coming up that you want to share? I mean, Travis, I know you're going to be at Mile High Con doing some stuff, and that's
Well,
like,
yeah, I'm guest of honor at Mile High Con this year.
oh my God.
Oh, you have
Wow.
been living in a hole. You did not see this news.
I didn't see that. I was just like, oh, holy shit, I'm on panels. That's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. But that's so great.
Yeah, and another sort of a big announcement was that my short film Demon for Hire is having its world premiere at the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival in Portland in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. I'm super excited that some people seem to like the film, so that's very encouraging.
Yeah, awesome. Did you have like a Kickstarter for
I
that, or
I
okay.
did crowdfund part of the budget. Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't Kickstarter, but yeah, it was called Seed and Spark. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. All right. Yes. Sorry. The brain is not working for details today, so I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, that's so cool that you're guest of honor at Mile High Con though.
Yeah, that it feels pretty huge. It's a
Yeah.
very much a kind of career milestone for me. So
Yeah.
Congratulations.
thank you.
All right. And so Matt, any big news for you?
No, nothing. No immediate traveling or anything. Uh,
Well, that's good.
Working on the book and writing stories and haranguing agents. And uh, if anybody here has looked at my old website, mattbilly.com, it got pirated
Ooh.
in some administrative error and is a Asian porn site,
Oh,
something. So mattbillyauthor.com. Now,
okay.
unfortunately, the old one's in all my books and stuff.
All right. Cool. I will put that on the Facebook page.
Thanks.
Um, well, all right. I'm sorry about the Asian porn thing,
Yeah, that's too
taking
bad.
over your, but it happens to the best of us. Um, all right. Well, I guess, if we're all good with closing out tonight, I really appreciate both of you being here and, taking some time out of your evening to share these stories with us. And, hope to hear more from you. And so, yeah, I hope you have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for being here and listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Night.
All
Good
right.
night,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night. All right. So that is our show tonight. Yeah, again, sorry we're one person short, but life happens. And just FYI, our next show is October 19th. And that's at 7 p.m. And currently, I have Steve Anderson and Deb Courtney reading for that. But, I do have some spots available. So if you are interested in reading for that show, you can go ahead and either PM me on the Facebook page for Stories Live or send an email to amystorieslive@gmail.com. And, just let me know that you want to read for that show. The theme for it is The Future is Dark. Um, but it's not, I don't want anyone to feel like, that's limiting the show to like just futuristic or fantasy or sci-fi stuff. I mean, it's like absolutely anything where there's any sort of sense of doubt, uncertainty, or, impending doom of some kind. So, absolutely, if you think that your story fits at all for that, please reach out to me. And, just as usual, it's, like approximately a 20-minute reading slot. If we have fewer people, can maybe go to 30 minutes, but, we try to keep it around that time frame. So, anyway, I will let everybody go tonight, and I hope that you have a pleasant evening, and I'll see you next month.